Hey folks, for as long as this channel has been a thing, there's been one battle that's continually raged on in the comment section of my videos, and that is the battle of the ever-present GP107 found in Nvidia's GTX 1050Ti and AMD's cut-down Polaris GPU found in the RX 470 and its refresh, the RX 570. Now really, at this point, this topic should be dead and buried. I mean, the RX 470 and 1050Ti originally debuted back in 2016, but due to the insane demand for PC components and the issues of getting RDNA2 and Ampere cards into the hands of gamers, everyone is once again turning to the past just to get something usable in their systems. And with these 4GB cards once again flooding the used market, it's time to go another round and see how these cards fare with a bunch of the latest titles. Now, compared to a year ago, both cards have seen a huge hike in price, and in 2021 it's unlikely that you're going to get either of these cards for under 100 quid. But let's just get the game benchmarks out of the way first, and then we can talk about who should buy what once we know how these two cards compare. We're going to look at both stock and overclocked figures. With the overclock on the GTX 1050Ti, we've got a 200MHz offset on the core, and the memory speed has been bumped up from 7GHz effective to 8GHz. With the RX 570, the stock boost clock of 1244MHz was increased to 1350, and like the 1050Ti, we're running the memory at 8GHz effective, up from 7. The long and the short of it is the Nvidia card has less compute cores, but it's running much faster, whereas the AMD card runs a lot lower core clocks, but has much more cores, and with a 256-bit memory bus compared to the 1050Ti's 128-bit bus, it has double the memory bandwidth. All these tests were completed on my budget Xeon system, which features an E5 1650V2, a 6-core 12-thread CPU based on the Ivy Bridge architecture, overclocked to 4.2 GHz across all 6 cores, and 16GB of DDR3 RAM. Kicking things off with Hitman III, running through the Dubai benchmark at 1080p on the medium preset with 16x AF, and screen space reflection set to high. The 1050Ti here kept everything above 30fps even in stock form, with the overclock pushing things up into the 50s in terms of average FPS. The RX 570 here though blitzed the 1050Ti's results, averaging in the 80fps range, while the overclocked results seen the 1% lows push past 60fps. This is the newest title of the bunch, but a difference between the two cards of this much is pretty incredible. In Watch Dogs Legion, and to ensure the 1% lows remained above 30fps on the GTX 1050Ti, the internal resolution was set to 1717 by 965 and then upscaled using temporal upscaling to reconstruct it back to 1920 by 1080. This was coupled with the medium preset but with reflections set up to high to enable screen space reflections. At stock, the 1050Ti returned an average FPS of 39 and the 1% lows of 30fps. The overclocked profile here seen about a 10% bump up in performance for the 1050Ti, which was good to see. The RX 570 in stock form returned average FPS over 60 with the 1% lows in the high 40s, and the overclock, like the 1050Ti, seen about a 10% bump up in performance. So even in stock form, the RX 570 outperforms the overclocked 1050Ti to the tune of about 40% in terms of average FPS. Assassin's Creed Valhalla next, and when run at 1080p with an internal resolution of 972p on the medium preset with AA set to low, character texture set to high and SSR turned on, the 1050Ti at stock gave us an average FPS in the mid 40s, with the 1% lows being comfortably above 30fps. Overclocked seen the average frame rate hit 50fps and the 1% lows were much closer to 40 than 30, so a good showing for the little 1050Ti. Once again though, the RX 570 broke the 60fps barrier in terms of average FPS even in stock form, while like the previous test was seen about a 10% increase in performance with the overclock. While the two cards here were closer packed than in Watch Dogs, the stock RX 570 still outperformed the 1050Ti to the tune of around 20%. Dirt 5 was run next at a native 1080p on the medium preset. In short, the 1050Ti needed the overclock to maintain 1% lows above 30fps. While the additional performance on top from the RX 570, it overall led to a much smoother gaming experience. Now there's nothing wrong with playing at a locked 30 on the 1050 Ti, but if you've got a variable refresh rate monitor, you can't really feel the difference just being able to run it that little bit faster. Not much to say here other than the 570 once again outperformed the 1050 Ti by almost 40%. Horizon Zero Dawn was run on the original preset, which basically targets the same settings as you would find on a normal PS4. Running at native 1080p, the 1050 Ti, it turned in a good result here. 44 FPS on average with 1% lows close to 40. And when overclocked, the GTX 1050 Ti was pushed into an even more comfortable setting. If things were impressive on the 1050 Ti though, then it was only amplified when we switched over to the RX 570, which when overclocked offered up what I would class as a true 60 FPS experience, with the 1% lows being in the mid 50s and average FPS sitting comfortably in the 60 bracket, meaning that there was just shy of a 30% difference between these two cards. So how do things pan out for the 1050 Ti and RX 570 in 2021 then? Well, on average we're looking at around a 30 to 40% difference, and that's something you can't really ignore. I said in my last video on this low profile 1050 Ti that I've finally found a 1050 Ti that I actually like, and that remains true. As a low profile card for a very niche use case like an ultra slim form factor build, then the LP 1050 Ti offers up acceptable performance in new titles, but really it should only be considered if you value form factor above anything else. At this point I would say that anything other than a low profile 1050 Ti is just not worth it. For 99% of you out there, regardless if your build is ITX, Micro ATX or ATX, the only option which makes any sort of sense is the RX 570. With the increased memory bandwidth and more computational grunt, the RX 570 is going to serve you longer than the GTX 1050 Ti ever could at this point. In newer titles, the gap continues to grow between these two cards, and even with the inflated prices pushing the 570 to around the 120 quid mark, even if you are getting the 1050 Ti for around 30 to 40% less, the question of longevity and realistic usefulness in games in comparison to the RX 570 means that really you should be paying even less than the price to performance figures would suggest. So I think it's a clear winner then, with the GTX 1050 Ti only finding value in some super slim PC applications. And once again, the Polaris based RX card showing just how good we had it back in 2016 when the original RX 470 launched for under £180 or dollars. And from what I've seen from the lower end offerings from Nvidia and AMD, it's going to be a long time before we ever see such a genuine hero card for the masses again. And on that rather somber note, I think I'll leave it there for today. As always, thank you for tuning in to watch this video. I would really love to hear what you think of these two cards, and which one you would pick for a budget gaming rig in 2021. Remember to use those thumbs and let me know what you think of the video, and consider clicking subscribe if you've not done so already. For now though, take care, and I'll see you all in the comment section down below, and in the next video.